Back on Full-Time Devils, Francis Maxwell here from TYT Sports. Big game this weekend. Manchester United host Arsenal. Bitter rivalry there. How will things pan out? Let's talk some tactics. So as you know by now, the way things go here, I'm going to highlight one flaw that I've seen from the last game, specifically defensively, before I go forward and talk about how United can try and exploit Arsenal's weaknesses. So the first thing, Michelin, good result in the end up. A little tough the way things started, and it could have easily been avoided. So before I get into that, the team is what might change, because there's a few injuries in there. Apparently Smalling might find his way back, but at the moment I'm going to go with this team. So I think Carrick and Blin did an okay job, specifically in the second half. Rojo might make a return as well, but I really liked Riley at left back. I thought he did a phenomenal job going forward, and I did like Schneiderlin and Herrera when they started to click, especially going forward as well. Herrera, that last man running into the box, is very dangerous, so I did like that partnership. Lingard, Mata, Depay, and of course the new hero Marcus Rashford up top. So if Smalling is to come back into the team, of course he's to start if he's ready to be fit. And then in that scenario, what I would do personally, I don't think Mata had the best game. I think Mata has definitely been playing well enough to remain in that spot, but I loved Herrera in that game. So if Smalling was to return, for me, I would put Smalling back in at centre-back, moved Carrick into where Herrera is to give more stability, especially against Arsenal with Ozil trying to find pockets in there, and then I'd push Herrera into Mata's position, maybe Mata in off the bench. But that's just what I thought. So nonetheless, back to the weakness. So when Manchester United conceded that early goal, few things. Juan Mata, the reason why I mention this is because when it comes to defending, he doesn't force pressure as well as you want your attacking midfielder to do. So Manchester United lost possession in here for that first goal, if you remember. Mata was caught out of position here, right? So immediately, Michelin started to push players forward. Schneiderlin and Herrera caught way too flat. Both of them are basically in line here like this. That can't happen, especially against Arsenal. You need to have someone staggered so that he's got basically this area covered and able to come across and mark. So what happened was Herrera and Schneiderlin were caught a little too high up. The ball found its way into this area. Schneiderlin and Herrera both rushing on the back foot. You don't realise how much this changes a player's decision-making when they're moving back the way. If they already have the game in front of them and Schneiderlin can see, which he does very well at times, specifically when the ball's higher up. Schneiderlin is brilliant when he has the game in front of him. He can make sure to make that tackle. How many times did you see him dispossess Michelin players in their own half when he was stepping to the ball? But when he's tracking back, he's not as effective. So when he's sprinting to get into the position that he should already be in because of the way his midfield's set up, then it'll be easier to try and cut out those passes. But what happened is it became rushed. Schneiderlin and Herrera both rushed to the ball at the same time. The midfielder broke through the middle of them, and as you know, what happened from there was bad news. They finished the ball into the back of the net, and it was a horrible start for Manchester United, easily avoided. And the reason I bring this up is because Mesut Ozil loves to pick up the ball in those pockets. So if it's Schneiderlin and Carrick, or if it's Schneiderlin and Herrera, it's going to be Schneiderlin for me that I want to sit a little bit deeper. Now, Carrick naturally is a more deeper-minded player, and he would fill into that position no problem if it was to be him and Schneiderlin. But I love how Schneiderlin steps to the ball and adds that pressure, but he needs someone to back him up. So, specifically, if Mesut Ozil finds himself in this space, I want Schneiderlin to be stepping to him, putting pressure, but that means that whether it's Herrera or whether it's Carrick, they need to be working cohesively. So as soon as he steps to the ball, Herrera needs to be thinking, I need to get here, provide backup. And if it's Mata, I need to get here and form this triangle formation, which everyone, when you play in midfield, knows and has heard of. But Manchester United, at times, let that go away far too easy. So that's the minor thing, I think, defensively that has to be shored up to prevent Ozil from picking up the ball. But going forward, things started to click in the second half. Why? I'll tell you right now. So going forward, I'm going to focus on one term, a term that was driven into me back in sunny Scotland when I was a young lad trying to pursue football. It was recycle your movement. Driven until all I could hear was recycle. I was the best recycling guy in the room, constantly putting my bottles away. Nonetheless, recycle your movement in and around the box and recycle the movement that you're going to do when going forward. When I seen Memphis Depay get the ball, what would happen is he'd change up the way he'd be attacking, right? So for instance, again, Michelin, you'd see Memphis Depay pick up the ball out in this area with space to attack. So say this is Bellerin. Bellerin loves to be taken one-on-one. So for instance, Memphis Depay is going to have to try and take him on. But what Riley was doing is he'd offering this extra option down the line so he could utilise him, put Bellerin in a second mind, make him guess whether or not he's going to play it wide or whether he's going to stop. And what that allowed for Manchester United to do, specifically if you remember Schneiderlin's header off the post, is Memphis Depay switched it up. He recycled his movement. He didn't simply pick up the ball in this area and drive down the line. He checked back, found it into a deeper midfield position and whipped in a first-time cross. And Schneiderlin was very unlucky not to score. And the same thing goes for the strikers' movements. what I loved about Marcus Rashford, especially in the box. So if you remember Rashford's first goal, the ball was wide and Rashford made this run into the box, right? It dragged the defender across. It was a good striker's movement to try and win the ball. When that ball went too deep and it went to Juan Mata, Michelin's two defenders were so still. And what you see Rashford do is he recycled his movement, checked back, and was managed to get there in front of the ball to put it into the back of the net. That's what strikers need to do. That's what Manchester United need to do, specifically if they get the chances in the box against Arsenal, is recycle your movement. So this goes back to the ball in the wide position instead of constantly taking on a man and driving down the line. Memphis Depay might need to check back, find it to feet and whip in an early cross. It's about changing it up, keeping the opposition defence on their toes, because Bellerin is going to want Depay to be confident in the moment and take him one-on-one, because Bellerin's rapid. He's very quick. But nonetheless, what I liked about Riley and what I liked about Varela is they were constantly offering that second option. Overlapping down the right-hand side or overlapping down the left-hand side. And let's not forget, Arsenal, watch the game against Barcelona. Now, I'm not saying that Manchester United are in the same category as Barcelona. I may be delusional. I think LVG has done that to me this year, but I'm not that delusional. So one example I want to highlight is when Alexis was caught higher up the field. What Dani Alves immediately done was just managed to pose that question. He just wandered into this area so that Alexis was focused on him. And what that allowed was for the likes of Suarez to pull wide into this gap. And they would do the weak side switch because Arsenal do not provide enough cover in the wide area. So what I want to see from Manchester United is an act of fearlessness, is recycling the movement, is pushing forward the fullbacks into those areas where it causes Monreal to think, I'm 2-on-1 here, and Alexis won't track back. And then by doing so, don't just consistently try and take them on the line. No, get the ball into a deeper area, like Lingard may find if Varela finds the ball in here. And instead of Lingard making the simple run across, which Arsenal will like, check back, get the ball into feet and whip that early cross in. Because Manchester United found a lot of success, specifically in the second half, by changing up that movement. That's what United have been lacking. They've been lacking the creativity to change up attacking movements instead of just constantly trying to find that direct pass, being a little bit more patient, bringing it back and whipping in the early cross. And you've seen the results. Yes, Midtjylland are not Arsenal. Now, trust me, I'm not blinded here. I'm not blinded by the 5 goals. I understand there's a lot of work to do. But it was the creativity that I looked at. It was the ability to not simply want to take on your first man, which Depay can do. Trust me, I want him to do that, put Bellerin on the back foot. But it was having being able to utilise the fullbacks to create space for himself to whip in the cross. Because Depay, when he cut back onto his right foot and whipped in those early balls, it was wicked. He whipped in wicked crosses that are hard to deal with. That's what I want to see Manchester United do. Recycle the movement and be more creative. I want to know what you guys think. It's going to be a tough task, but who knows what will happen in the Premier League. It's been up and down. It's the most bipolar league, I think, in the world. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit me up on Twitter at Francis_Maxwell and come over here, as always, to TYT Sports to see more tactics.
It's very inconsistent, Alex.
No, the media is inconsistent. That's different.
Well, it's not media that
It's the media.
Sunderland.
It's the media.